Doom v Vamos Vivamos Epicureans. This is the BCE Comics Pod one-shot edition. I'm your host, Nick Smith, and I'm joined by...
Stojr from Stojr Shelf. How's it going, Nick?
I'm doing well, particularly since we are participating in Kurtis Findlay's Epic Marvel Podcast Reading Club, and this one-shot is going to be our brief thoughts on today's issue, which is Uncanny X-Men number 184, The Past of Future Days. Alright, so Mystique as Raven Darkholm and Valerie Cooper are in Dallas to meet with Forge, as he has created some new devices for the government, an untested weapon which can take any super being's powers, and a detector that can identify mutants, humans, and various alien species, including the Dire Wraiths. We're also told that Forge himself is a mutant, but we're not yet told what his power is, but he does have a very cool metal leg. Back in New York, Rachel from the future seems to be in our timeline and is surprised that Senator Kelly is alive and that he is the one introducing the Mutant Control Act. Well, she is attacked by Selene, she's saved by a nightclub owner, but then attacked again. Rachel is eventually rescued by the X-Men, who are confused by the fact that she seems to know who they are. Alright, Stojr, what are your thoughts?
So my first thought is I screwed up in the last issue, and I commented on Rachel's appearance, but that all happens here and not in the last issue. So, we'll transplant some of those thoughts into this issue. I thought she was at least teased in the last one, but I realized I mixed them up. I like Forge's introduction. I think Forge looks pretty cool. I like that we're spanning outside the New York area, and we get a little bit of a stronghold here in Texas. I know we've been to other places like Colorado and things like that before, but it's nice to visit other parts of the country. We get this sort of machine here or gun that will play a pivotal role in some issues to come up. And if anybody's watched the X-Men cartoon, X-Men 97, they'll it immediately kind of jump out at them as something that'll drive some immediate plot points. I felt like some of the issue here felt a lot like Terminator. And Terminator was out around the same time. So I wonder if there's a little bit of an homage here, especially with like on page 201 with Rachel kind of running into that nightclub. I feel like if I went back and watched the original Terminator, when Sarah Connor runs into that nightclub, it looks exactly the same. Where you have like the sort of ticket booth off on the side there, the bouncer up at the front, you go into the middle, and there's a bunch of people dancing. I know that that's very much like a standard club look, but I got very much got a Terminator vibe from this as she's running from somebody into that spot there.
Stojr, can I interrupt you?
Sure. Absolutely.
You're gonna
Terminator.
You're gonna hate me. I've never seen Terminator.
Have you at least seen Terminator 2?
No. Nope.
Do you like not watch movies? Like how do you
not really?
see
No.
Terminator 2?
No. Yep. This is I think this is going to be our continuing thread here. Me not knowing. I know Three Amigos. I know Back to the Future. Indiana Jones.
Okay. We're gonna have to get you. We're gonna have to start making a list here of like action movies. So and I have a theory, and this is not spoilers, but I have a theory because I actually don't know how Rachel got into this timeline. It goes back to my points in the last issue of me needing to kind of read through her earlier appearances here. But she's the one that sent Kitty's mind back into the past, right?
Yes.
So when that timeline was reset, I'm kind of playing off of your comment about Senator Kelly, her being surprised that Senator Kelly's alive. The whole point there was to keep him alive. And in her timeline, he was dead. So I wonder if something happened that when the timeline reset, because she was kind of had a connection back to this period of time, like that sort of like knocked her loose or something like that. Like where like that whole timeline doesn't exist necessarily and maybe got rewritten, but she was she at least had her finger on this timeline, this reality, this dimension, whatever you want to call it, and that maybe knocked her loose. So that's not a spoiler. That's my guess how they'll explain it if they ever explain it. But I think Selene is an interesting villain in this issue. I don't know how often we see her over the years. I know that she plays she's part of that what's it called? Necrotia X. storyline. So like during I think this might be getting released in an omnibus, which is why I mentioned it. There's like the Messiah trilogy. I forget if the Necrotia is part of that, but there's a Messiah trilogy omnibus that's being released this year. And Necrotia happens around that same time, and Celine's the main villain in that. So she's around, and she'll appear as an X-Men foil. I think she does a good job fighting off all the different X-Men in this particular issue. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, honestly, the character of Celine didn't really do anything for me. As of right now, she's just kind of a bogeyman, and maybe something will come of that, but I don't know. For me, I like seeing Forge here. I've always had kind of a soft spot for the character of Forge. I don't know why, but he intrigues me. I really like him. And I guess it's not really worth discussing his power set right now. We get a little hint at it, but it has not been explained to us yet. So I'm not going to say anything on that for anyone who's reading these for the first time. There are hints there, though. I find it interesting. Forge also mentions that the U.S. is at war with the Dire Wraiths. Here we're getting that wider Marvel universe together, but the Dire Wraiths in particular were villains that Marvel created for the ROM comic series. But at least Marvel doesn't have to worry about licensing with the Dire Wraiths because they invented them. But this is one of the crossovers with the ROM universe that is a part of the Marvel universe at this time. And I've read ROM here or there, but I haven't read it through all the time. So I'm excited for all the epic collections of that to come through. And once we have them as a big chunk, I might try to plow through them.
They mentioned ROM by name here at least. So
did they?
That's interesting.
I
yeah,
think...
195. He says that their arch foe, the Space Knight ROM, uses an analyzer. Blah blah blah. So
okay,
it's that big tall panel there.
The big tall panel. Okay. I maybe didn't quite catch that one. Oh yeah, there it is. ROM's weapons. All right. I also I get that they're going back to the well of Days of Future Past here, right? It was a popular storyline, and I'm okay with that. There's a part of me that likes that there's this known future that the X-Men are working to avoid. Which means that prophesized future has to maintain consistency, right? That has to be the future so that we know what the X-Men are working towards trying to prevent. And we're at a point where the time travel stories do kind of stay consistent. I feel like that prophesized future stays the same for a long time. Like, we eventually get Bishop coming from that time period and coming into the past. I think at some point the time travel stories start getting more jumbled, and that's not the set future. But I kind of like that we know where things are going to go, and the X-Men are hopefully going to change it at some point.
I think the general theme of like the undoing of mutants comes down to machines. Whether you take that from the Sentinels in Days of Future Past, or you take that from some things that'll happen later with in the Krakoa era, the House of X, Powers of X. It's all about you keep fast forwarding into the future, and it's not humans that are the real enemy; it's machines, right? It's this techno-organic or these entities and things like that. So thematically it stays, but your point is still accurate because there's been so many alternate futures that have been sprinkled throughout. The one that I think about that is, I think, like just completely random is during the Bendis era, there was a future, I forget the crossover. I think I have it's like Battle of the Atom is the crossover. And they just have a bunch of like random futuristic X people that are in that, and the villain. But I don't think that has anything to do with machines, is my point, right? Mm-hmm. So that's an alternate future that wouldn't stay consistent with what we're talking about here. But I think it's going to come down to really that is going to be the core that drives things as we go forward.
Yeah, that's a good point because with it being the machine versus mutants, we're going to get the phalanx in the future of those kind of machine guys. And what is it? It's the legacy virus that's also kind of a machine, a techno-organic virus that happens in the future. And I remember all that stuff from the 90s and thinking that was super cool, So I look forward to when we eventually get to some of those things.
And certainly, like, Cable blows up all that stuff too, right? Because like the Cable futures are much more like Apocalypse is the problem versus machines. So I guess that's the other big one that kind of diverts from this like machine being a problem thing. But I think one of the ways that House of X, Powers of X kind of put things back on track is that that boogeyman in the future is machines. So
Interesting. Okay, any other final thoughts there, Stojr?
No. Looking forward to the next issue and where we go from here. We get our next issue is the cover of this epic. So.
All right, yeah, looking forward to that too. So, once again, if you've enjoyed our thoughts, follow us on YouTube, where we will read, rate, and review a full big collection. Whew, man, I'm tripping over my outros now. All right, we're gonna read, rate, and review a full big collected edition comic once a month, plus these daily one-shots. Thank you guys again for watching and for putting up with our tongue twisters here. All right, we'll catch you guys again next time.